length of some of these problems, I'm not surprised. Okay. Okay. So now we just have to multiply it across and simplify it. Or if you wanted to, you could cancel out the way it is there. So I'll just go ahead and multiply it out. 8 times x minus 1 times x minus 7 times 3x minus 1 all over x plus 8 times x minus 7 times x times 1 minus x. Okay, so here we know we have an x minus 7. Cancel out with this x minus 7. We have this x. Cancel out with this x. Okay, so actually that's all we have left, because we're now left with 8 times x minus 1 times 3x minus 1 all over x plus 8 over 1 minus x. Let's clean that up a little bit. Okay. Now, if these were switched, we could cancel those out. And that's when we go back to that one little trick. That 1 minus x is equal to negative 1 times x minus 1. Where if you just factor out a negative 1, you can switch them around. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so once you do that, apply it to this one. Okay. One little thing you have to remember, you have to multiply the numerator and denominator by negative 1. Oops. Okay, so that means if we have, I'll do each individual step. 8 times x minus 1 times 3x minus 1 all over x plus 8 times 1 minus x. What we do is we multiply both of those by negative 1. Negative 1 over negative 1. Because remember, we can't change the actual value. So if we just did the denominator by negative 1, you're completely changing it. But if we multiply the numerator and denominator over the same thing, we just multiply the whole thing by 1. Okay, so that's why you want to make sure you do both the numerator and denominator. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Now remember, this one, if you distribute that one out, negative 1 times x minus 1 is 1 minus x, or you can do negative 1 times x minus 1 is 1 minus. You can do either one of those and it would still work out. Okay, so if you distribute that negative 1 and 1 minus x, negative 1 times negative x is positive x. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So this actually becomes negative 1 times 1 minus x is x minus 1. So you can flip them either way. If you wanted to, you could have multiplied the negative 1 times this one and got negative 1 minus x, or 1 minus x. So you could have done either one. I just happened to pick that one just because. Okay. So that means you have 8. Oh, make sure that's up far enough. Times x minus 1 times 3x minus 1, and don't forget that negative 1 out there, all over x plus 8, and remember that negative 1, you distributed that one, so that just becomes x minus 1. Okay, so now you can cancel out the x minus 1.